Aggression and altruism. Aggression involves the deliberate acts by individuals that are intended to harm other individual groups. Although violence is a fact of life, people are also capable of helping each other, even complete strangers in emergencies. Research indicates that altruism occurs when a person feels empathy for another individual, even in the absence of other motives. At the end of this study session, you should be able to describe aggression and its various forms, explain altruism and its various forms. Aggression can be described as any form of behavior by an individual or group of individuals which is intended to cause pain, suffering, or damage to another person. To the religionist, aggression is regarded as a manifestation of behavior by an individual or individuals who are under demonic influence. In other words, it appears various meanings are given to aggression by different people based on their experiences, beliefs, exposure, as well as a field of study. However, a consensus has emerged among most social psychologists studying human aggression about what constitutes aggression in general and what constitutes the major forms or ideal types of aggression. Aggression involves the deliberate acts by individuals that are intended to harm other individuals or groups. Aggression includes many types of behaviors, although most people usually only think of it in terms of physical attacks. Verbal behavior meant to cause psychological harm is also aggression. Physical aggression includes behaviors like hitting another person or firing a gun. Verbal aggression includes behaviors like screaming at someone in anger or using an obscene gesture. Hostile aggression is motivated by anger and hostility, with the primary aim of harming others, either physically or psychologically. Instrumental aggression is behavior that is intended to achieve some goal that just happens to require aggression. Violent and aggressive acts are more likely to be committed by men than by women. Women are aggressive in different ways than men, using relational violence such as gossip, alliance formation, and ostracism to hurt others emotionally. Media violence has been shown to cause violence and aggression in real life. When a media publicized suicide occurs, copycat suicides follow. Longitudinal studies show that children who watch lots of violence on TV commit more serious crimes as adults than children who watch less violence. Watching violence on TV also causes more violent behavior in the short run. Violent video games also increase the likelihood of violence. Heat affects levels of violence. There are higher rates of violent crime in hotter cities and more violence during hot months than during the cool months. Let us now take a look at types of aggression. Despite the different types of aggression as have been mentioned, there seems to be a consensus among scholars on three main types of aggression, which are hostile aggression, This refers to that aggression that is aimed at or intended to harm another person. It is a deliberate thing that is more often than not pre-planned. For example, an individual deliberately hits another person with a fist with the intention of harming him. Another type of aggression is instrumental aggression. This form of aggression is targeted at obtaining an object, privilege, or space with no deliberate intent to harm another person, which is typical of toddlers. Another type of aggression is relational aggression. It is a form of hostile aggression that does damage to another's peer relationships, such as in social exclusion or rumor spreading. For example, "Go away, I will not play with you again." Or when someone tells another person, "Don't play with Anu again, she has been naughty of late." According to the frustration aggression hypothesis, aggression results from thwarted needs, and thwarted needs results in aggression. Construal processes affect both anger and aggression. Acts that seem to be intentional are more likely to cause aggression than identical acts that do not seem intentional. People in many parts of the world, including many people in the US, adhere to a culture of honor, meaning that they are inclined to respond to insults and actions that convey malicious intentions with violence or threats of violence. Such cultures can be found wherever there is a history of herding, with its great attendant risk of loss of all wealth. Rape-prone cultures have high levels of violence in general and use rape as a weapon in battle. They also use rape as a ritual act and as a threat to keep women subservient to men. Relatively rape-free cultures tend to grant women equal status. Evolutionary theory provides a useful perspective on family violence. Stepchildren are more subject to abuse than genetic offspring who can carry on one's genetic line. Men who have more to gain by eliminating romantic rivals are vastly more likely to kill other men than women are to kill other women. We'll now take a look at altruism. Situational determinants of altruism can be far stronger than our intuitions tell us they should be. Being late reduced the likelihood of a seminary student helping a victim from 60% to 10%. Whether someone offers help to a victim or not, such as a bystander intervention, it also depends greatly on the number of people who observe some incident. The presence of others leads to a diffusion of responsibility in which no one individual takes responsibility for helping the victim. Pluralistic ignorance occurs when people are uncertain about what is happening and do nothing, often out of fear of embarrassment in case nothing is really wrong. Their reaction reinforces everyone's erroneous conclusion that the events are innocuous. Victim characteristics that increase the likelihood of being helped include whether the victim is similar to the target, whether the victim screams and makes known the situation, and whether the victim is female. Evolutionary approaches to altruism leads initially to a puzzle as to why it would exist at all. From the standpoint of evolution, All our actions should serve to increase the likelihood of survival and reproduction. The kin selection hypothesis explains, however, that people will help others to preserve the genes of close kin so as to benefit their own gene pool. Another kind of helping behavior, reciprocal altruism, also arises out of selfish motives. The reciprocity motive entails people grant others favor or help others in the belief that those whom they have helped will at some future time grant them favors of similar value. People may help others out of another selfish motive, to enhance their reputation or to obtain social rewards. People may help others to gain praise, attention, rewards, honor, or gratitude. They may make charitable contributions to improve their image and to gain the approbation of others. Another form of altruism that is actually based on a selfish motive is the reduction of experienced distress. One person helps another simply to avoid feeling distress at the other's pain. A form of pure, undiluted altruism is based on empathy, the feeling of concern for another person after observing and being moved by that person's needs. Experimenters have found clever ways to distinguish between people who help for empathic and non-empathic reasons. Those who help for egoistic distress avoidance reasons actually show different physiological patterns than those who help for empathic reasons. People who live in rural settings are more likely to help others than people who live in urban settings. Study session summary. In this study session, we examined altruism and the meaning of aggression. We also discussed types of aggression. The types of aggression discussed include hostile aggression, instrumental aggression, and relational aggression. We have now come to the end of study session 11. Thank you for joining us.